Kingdom Come Deliverance. With the recent release of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I thought this would be a good time to introduce myself to this series by going back and playing the first installment that was released nearly 7 years ago in 2018. Kingdom Come Deliverance is a medieval RPG that separates itself from the crowd. There aren't many games like it, and in fact, it is one of the only games that brought me back to having these classic Oblivion vibes that I once felt back in 2007. You play as Henry, a blacksmith's son, who basically goes from zero to hero. And when I say zero, I mean zero. This game prides itself in its attempt to incorporate its realism mechanics to immerse you into this world. Now, being a blacksmith's son, Henry at first has no combat experience, and these enemies are going to wallop you. It's only after actually training in-game with the sword and leveling up your combat skills by using them that you will stand a chance and eventually become overpowered against your enemies. It took time for me to adjust my expectations and remind myself that this is what the developers were going for. This is not your usual game of having a new character who can do what he wants. It is realistic in the sense if you fight more than one enemy at a time, you will likely lose. And I could see this being frustrating for new players who aren't looking for such a design choice. I overall appreciated the sense of progression, but I also found myself in turn being frustrated with this game's mechanics. If we are basing this off of realism, cool, I'm all for it. But why then if I kill a bandit in the middle of the woods with no one around and I travel across the map to sell these items that I looted to a trader, he recognizes these as stolen goods? Or if I'm in combat and I get hit with an arrow or pierced with a sword and I start bleeding, it's basically a death sentence. This wouldn't be a problem if the combat was polished, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's all over the place and janky. These computers have a broken perfect parry system that I don't know why they're so able to easily execute all the time. Another example of a broken mechanic is the lockpicking system. It is completely undoable, at least if you're playing on console. That's an entire part of the game that became unplayable to me. There are plenty of side quests to do, and I found the main story to be pretty interesting. The game's writing is fantastic, and very often there is more than one way to go about a quest. And you could shape Henry's personality through different dialogue options using your speech skill.
Now, as cool as these giant siege battles are, I do feel some of these later quests feel rushed, and the final mission is missing a final boss fight that I think would have really tied up the game together nicely. To sum it up, you have an overall solid and unique RPG experience that's both a blessing and a curse in its attempt to replicate some real-world realism into its gameplay. I'm going to give this a solid 3 out of 5.